In and Out with me, Professor Yalman, from the TEDU radio studios at TED University. This is to reach out to those who have questions and want desperate answers. Why me? Because I've seen it all. I've seen it all in different aspects. I have been up, down, I was fired, I was hired, I was poor, I was rich. I fell in love, I lost my love, I became a kite surfer, I became a writer, I became a poet, I became a musician. I never stopped trying. At the end of the day, I never stopped trying. I never lost my hope. There was always a pinnacle in my life where the answers to those questions came. And if those answers are not coming by themselves, here's your chance to ask us. Ask us and I will answer them. As I say, life can get even or you can get a 7. So a 7 you can get much easier, not just believing in luck, but being persistently pursuing your path, which is your authentic path. Ask the questions. In and Out with Professor Yalman every week on Thursday with you. Hi.
Hello.
Nice to have you on our studios.
It's nice.
Radio TEDU studios at University TED University. You're here with our podcast In and Out with me, Semih Yalman.
I'm excited about it. And I'm kind of confused about what to ask you because you have a great career. And I didn't know what to ask you at first.
Well, great. Leave the great part. Yes, I do have a career. And let me try to answer whatever you are asking.
Okay. So I am currently studying at English Language and Literature, and I know that you graduated from a similar kind of department. And I know that you got your master's in the business field. So I wanted to ask you what kind of career options we have if we want to have a similar career like you.
Well, first of all, yes, I did study American literature and philosophy at the same time at Hacettepe University back then, and you're studying at a great place. Let me tell you, because it is an infrastructural area. In business, people think that mathematics or strategy sort of stuff is important, but I think in doing business, the infrastructure of a person is very, very important. The way philosophically you approach certain things, the way you lay out your story, the way you persuade people, you sit around dinner and business meetings and you talk about societal issues. I think that is the fundamental part of making deals, because that's how you interconnect with other people in a cultural base where people feel you more, they trust you more, and it helps certain deals come alive, because we are, at the end of the day, beings with emotions, and any business deal requires emotional impact on one another. So I think you're studying in a great place. It will take you to places like you can become a journalist, which I was actually doing as well while I was studying. I was a reporter at Turkish Daily News at that time. You can be going into fields like theater and arts, which will be actually also very exciting for you. You can go into areas such as becoming a correspondent for a news channel. That will be very, very interesting for you. But at the same time, it gives you elements of persuading other people, because when you're studying what you're studying also mythology, you're studying things like philosophy, you're studying things like poetry, and all this actually gives you a linkage between the art of influentialism, I would say, influencing people and trying to bring them your way. Because when you start negotiating things, you shouldn't be sitting as we are sitting. You should be on the same part of the desk with other people, or get them there. So I think what you're studying is something immense. Yes, on top of this, you might want to sort of put a business degree, or you might want to put a certain Master of Science degree to it, depending on the area that you want to go. But I think you are at a level you will be at a level of spectrum where you can choose anything, because that is a great base. And having said that, I think more and more students should choose liberal arts or stuff like sociology, philosophy, or literature, because like when they go and start studying business, they don't have any business experience. They haven't worked before. So, but you're gonna ask me literature. Do I have a literate infrastructure or a literate background? Yes, you do, because you are being brought up by stories that you're told. You're being brought up by movies you watch, plays you watch. You're being brought up by the experience of musicology and reading books. So business is something new. You don't work as a clerk before attending school, but you go through all this before. So I think studying literature gives you a good spectrum of putting everything you've been exposed to in your life as a child and teenager into a platform where you can use for other things in the future.
Thank you so much for this answer. And I want to have a more social work life than just going to a 9-to-5 job or something like this. I want to become more social in the workplace that I want to choose.
Well, that's going to be up to you, but I'm sure having this background and being exposed to so many so much stuff with deepening yourself into different authors and poets, etc., I think you will find the romance of your business life, whatever that subject is going to be.
Okay.
Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we are here again at In and Out with Professor Yalman at Radio TEDU Studios at TED University. And we have Amal. Yes, Amal, I think you have several questions, not even one.
Yes, I have several questions. I hope we have enough time to answer them all.
Well, don't worry. I'm going to be very fast.
Okay. First one, I wanted to start with, what's a day like in Professor Semih's life? Do you have a usual routine, or is every day a surprise for you?
Well, I can break this down into summer and winter. During winter, that's namely fall and winter and spring, I would say. It's usually H2O in the morning, so water, and then namaz, and then going and doing yoga, and then the greens and chia seeds and all that stuff, maybe a single espresso, and then taking Odi out. Odi is the dog, so a walk with Odi. And in the park, usually exercise, and then coming back, all of a sudden having CNN, Wall Street Journal, and NBA on TV open, and I need that noise and some music at the same time. Maybe a podcast, and then getting ready for the day, and then going out for the day and doing whatever is being scheduled that day, either lecturing you guys or consulting or being with certain companies, etc. But then during the day, at least reading a couple of pages of the 3 books that I'm reading that week, listening some podcasts, and then during dinner time, dinner with friends or family, preferably kids. They're not kids anymore. And then that will be like my routine during winter. Okay. During summer, then I would say yes, wake up again, H2O, namaz, yoga, etc. But then the entire day would be taking Odi and going surfing, kite surfing namely, 5 hours or 6 hours on the water, coming back, having an early meal, crashing out. that summer.
Okay. On a weekly basis, though, how does it feel like to travel back and forth from Ankara to Istanbul?
It's great because I don't see cities or countries as a part of things. I see everything as a whole. So for me, Ankara and Istanbul is just one city, or London and Istanbul is just one city. I don't believe in borders and nationalities.
Okay, now my next question is, describe fatherhood and how do you feel as a father? How would you say you're different as a father compared to previous generations, such as your own father and grandfather?
Well, the answer here lies within my daughter's description of me. She says, you are a father like a kid. So that's the biggest difference. My father, my grandfather, they were all grown-ups as soon as I saw them. But to my kids, I'm trying to catch up with them. Now they're older than me. So I have this challenge of, growing up. And how are they? How is it? How does it feel? Yeah, they're part of your heart. And I think you feel them in you, and the way I feel my father in me, when I just think about it. So it's they're not a different being. They're like a piece of you, like we are of God,
Yeah. Okay, my next question is, you wear many hats, as we know, a teacher, a mentor, a father, an inventor. Which one of these roles would you say feels most natural to you, and which one is more challenging?
I see these roles not different roles. I see them as one. So I unite them somehow. But if you ask me which is the most challenging, I would say fatherhood, because I have to respect their boundaries.
Yeah,
I cannot be preaching all the time. They have their own paths. They have their own ways and own dreams. So I can't be like, coming in and putting my head or hand into their lives or putting my nose into their lives. As I said, they're grown-ups now. I am there when I'm asked. So that's the formula.
That's great. Okay, what's your favorite movie and why? Also, who would you say is your favorite director or filmmaker?
Oh, I would say my favorite movie is Fifth Element, or The Big Blue, and the director is Luc Besson, because it brings a lot of humanistic but also ecologic and supernatural things into one. But I could also name another movie which is a totally different spectrum, The Office Christmas Party by Will Speck and Josh Gordon. It's just a humorous way of celebrating something. And a third movie, I would say, Point Break by Catherine Bigelow, which is sort of a rebellious way of looking at life.
Okay, I like these choices. So to close it, my last question is, since Trump has Make America Great Again as a slogan, what would you say is your standout life slogan in a way that encapsulates your life philosophy?
Oh, that's very nice. The good question. I like MAGA. I like that. It became sort of a lucrative terminology, but my one would be dare to try, and don't forget, you are what you dream of.
That's so nice. I like these. Thank you so much for
All right,
having me.
Amal,
It's been a
thank you
pleasure.
for coming in. Thanks very much.
Have a
See
good
you.
day.
Bye. Okay, we're here at Radio TED Studios at TED University with In and Out, Professor Yalman, actually me, and I have Aisha with me. Aisha, welcome, and let's hear your questions this December.
Thank you so much for having me, first of all. So I'd like to start with asking about your experience at Gillette and how that shaped your life journey and led you to where you are now teaching at TED University.
Well, Gillette was a school of its own. I think where you start working is basically the beginning of an infrastructure. And that was the infrastructure that sort of shaped my discipline towards work, my enthusiasm towards work, the way of doing stuff, my pace towards work, and the culture, because multinational companies have that in them. So it was a big, very, very important school. And but you know what? Every place you work, it is like it gives you something where you start connecting the dots, and some shape sort of occurs, and then you start sort of filling in the gaps. So I think my experience after Gillette, a multinational, was understanding markets, etc., etc. But then I went into a multi-sectoral company where I sort of found out about different sectors, different dynamics over there. So, but again, it all starts with a good infrastructure, and then you can build upon that.
Got it. Okay. So my next question is a bit more personal. So tattoos are such a powerful form of self-expression. Could you tell us about your favorite tattoo and the story or meaning behind why it's so significant to you?
Well, I have 34 tattoos.
All right.
You know, every 5 years of my life, I have sort of episodic tattoos in line form. But out of those 34, one is very dear to me, which is right around my neck, going back on my left shoulder blade, and that is the names of my two children and my and my nephew and my niece. So it's Shan, Sim, Lal, Alp, and that's the order of their birth actually, and that means that they are so close to me as my skin, my soul, and that's very, very important for me.
All right, that's amazing. So you mentioned a lot about visualization in class. How do you apply it in your own life? And has there been a specific moment where you felt like you were living out a vision or a dream?
That's a good question. I always think like a camera is shooting me. Like the moment I wake up, you know, I think like I'm in my own movie, and I start visually thinking about what's happening and what's going on. But putting what I sort of practiced in class into spectrum would be actually specifically getting up like 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. in the morning, maybe sometimes earlier, where it's gloomy, and sitting and without, you know, the effect of or influence of anything like phone, whatever, water, whatever, just sitting there and visualizing my life, how I want it to be, like in that day or the day after or in 5 years or 10 years. When you start doing that, you create your own space, and that space actually will become the space which you sort of communicate to the universe actually, and it does happen. You know, it doesn't happen exactly the way you envision it, but it happens.
Okay.
So that's how I do it.
That's great. So you mentioned the universe. About that, do you subscribe to any doctrine, and if yes, which one?
Yes, I do subscribe to one doctrine, which is oneness, which is the existence and oneness of God. So that's the doctrine I subscribe to, nothing else. So the existence and oneness of God.
That's beautiful. So when it comes to spiritual texts like the Quran, Bible, or Torah, have you read them? Have you explored them? And how have they shaped your understanding of faith and your personal relationship with God?
Yes, I've read them all. The Quran I read periodically more because I feel like there is a direct line to God with all these texts, and which one you choose, it doesn't matter, but I chose Quran. I feel oneness, I feel expansion, but at the same time non-relevance. So if I'm dead, I'm dead, you know, I'm not very relevant. I mean, when people think about themselves as great, big, whatever, I'm not very relevant, I see. But at the same time, there's this huge expansive thing out there. And those biblical texts, for me, is a direct line. And every time I read it, I get a different message.
Okay, so you mentioned you feel freedom, basically. You said you don't feel anything when it comes to thinking about death. So you feel free from those sort of existential thoughts.
Whatever is being introduced to us, yes. Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. So since since you teach us perspective management and had us explore self-perception in our midterm exam, I'm curious, how do you perceive yourself? If you were to describe yourself using a few adjectives, like in the exam, what would they be and why?
Cool, obnoxious, genuine, and unexpected. That's how I sort of see myself, but I don't know how you guys see me. But at the same time, I could imagine that more or less they match, because after a while, I get this feedback, and cool, obnoxious, genuine, and unexpected.
All right, yes, and they do match.
Right.
So last question: all-time favorite book, author, poem, and poet.
All-time favorite book, Tom Peters, Circle of Innovation, Dr. Faust by Goethe, and The Basils of Wisdom by Ibn Arabi, If I want to sort of come into books which are more about world history, I would say Salt by Mark Kurlansky, or Guns, Germs and Steel by Jared Diamond. Schuld und Sühne by Dostoevsky. In terms of poetry, I would say The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost, and If, the poem If by Rudyard Kipling, and The City of Heart by Yunus Emre.
Great. Have you read Leo Tolstoy?
Leo Tolstoy I have read, but from the Russians I'm more closer to Dostoevsky.
I have a recommendation for you, Leo Tolstoy's Confession. I think you should read that.
I will definitely do that, and you should also read Voltaire's Candide.
I will. Thank you so
All right,
much.
Aisha.
All right.
See you later.
See you.
Now 44, still don't know for sure. When I was 4, then pure I was for sure. As I age, I realize it all, which I lure. Many I took granted for sure.